Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Stephen Rochester, and today we are joined by a really special guest, a good friend of mine. This gentleman is, one of the top producing realtors in the GTA. He spearheads the leasing team at the REC Canada team. You could also find him on his spare time, getting his steps in the nearest staircase near you. This is my brother, Mr. Shayan. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Stephen, man.
Thanks for joining me, man.
Appreciate you having me.
I know we were
brother.
trying to work this out for a little bit, so I'm happy you can join me on this morning. It's early, but early bird gets the worm.
I fucking love it. I love it, bro.
Man. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing awesome. Just
It's grinding
living.
away.
Honestly, right now it's interesting because like this last week, I haven't been as busy as I have been all summer.
Okay.
So I've needed the breather. I've taken a little rest.
Yeah.
But
I feel like everybody, I just recently got licensed. I'm hearing the talk. Everybody's kind of taking a little step back right now, reevaluate, what's going on.
I think with the market being where it is right now, like transactions wise, we're really low compared to
right
where
now.
the GTA normally is. I think a lot of people are feeling the pain. I've been very lucky.
A lot of variables to that, obviously.
Oh, there's so much. There's
Right.
so much going on in the market. There's so much going on with, I guess, how people conduct their business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just noticing that, it's a challenging market for a lot of people right now.
Yeah. So how are you kind of staying afloat nowadays? I know you're kind of shifting how you do business.
I mean, look, I attribute a lot of my success in the last year and a half, 2 years to working with like some top quality people. You know them, Jazz, Simeon, keeping these guys close.
Shout out to Broker's Playbook, Simeon.
That's it. Yeah. I love that. I love that hat too. I gotta get me one of those.
I need some more merch, Simos.
Yeah, there we go. And me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, in this business, you can be as busy as you want. It's just how busy do you actually want to be, and how hard do you want to work?
So I mentioned I just got licensed recently this year, earlier in the year. I've watched the team grow from, I've been with the team for about 5 years, 6 years now. Just seeing how you guys grind, the culture here, it's play, but it's also business at all times, right? So,
Absolutely.
I've watched you, spearhead this new leasing team for REC Canada. So can you tell me a bit about that?
Absolutely, man. I mean, look, we do things a little bit different here. We provide, anytime someone goes into an agreement with us for specific types of properties, we will actually help them buy the property, manage the property, obviously lease it out. This is mostly investment that we work with. Lease it out, and then later on dispose of the property.
Right.
So in this last, I think 7-8 months, I've done about 90 leases. Me and the team, probably with the team, close to 120, 130 leases.
Right.
And
wow.
That's been
in this market.
In this market.
So, okay.
Absolutely, man. And it's been a wild ride, to be honest with you. I've learned a lot about both myself and the business. And I think for me, what's been really, I guess, good in a way is that I'm okay to grind. I'm okay to work 14, 15 hours.
You're okay to do the leases.
I mean, and that's what it is. And leases aren't fun. Like they're not actually, like most agents don't want to do leases.
Well, that's what I'm doing now, right? I'm starting off, getting my footing, learning the tricks of the trades, and obviously how to manage my time and clients and their expectations. And you want a 2-bedroom for $2,000. It's just not happening right now, and you have to explain these kind of things, right? So I'm learning myself. And I love to pick brains of, the guys that are doing it at the highest level anyways, right? So obviously, you have to jump on with me. My question to you is, why real estate for you? Why'd you jump into this industry?
Oh, wow. Look, I've been always fascinated by real estate from a young age. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think I was like 20 something at the time. Literally, I think a month or two later, I bought my first condo. Nice. I bought my first pre-construction condo. Front and Spadina. This is by Concord City.
What year is this?
This is like 2003.
What are the prices like around that time?
Oh, we bought
2-bed?
1 bed and a den with parking, locker, and they threw in a 60-inch TV.
Incentives,
right? Exactly. 60-inch TV that I actually sold.
Right.
We got it for like $219. Yeah.
Where can you find that in the GTA nowadays? Is that even a thing?
It's not, man.
It's just not.
No. I mean, even when you go to the submarkets now, most are trading in the $8,900 to $1,000 a square foot range. And that's only because building costs are now so high. Back then, they were trying to incentivize builders to build condos because they changed the city of Toronto at some point changed their strategy from urban sprawling
Ah,
to focused areas and going higher,
got it.
right? So they were incentivized, like Concord City Place at that time, Spadina in front,
Mm,
like it was not a fun place to be.
you're right.
Like you walk down the street, you're kind of scared a little bit, you know.
Watch it
Now
back a little. See
you
what's
kind
going
of,
on. Be
I
aware
mean,
of your
look,
surroundings.
it's one of those things in Toronto. I feel like, it's a very safe city for the
Yeah,
most part, but you're always gonna watch some people out there.
that's
There's some
everywhere,
kooky
even in the
people.
suburbs sometimes, man.
100% everywhere, to
Yeah,
be honest. Anywhere I go, New York, Boston, LA,
yeah,
like, there's some areas you got to be very careful. But anyways, so that area in particular, I mean, Concord, I think, bought the land for like next to nothing.
right.
And I think they developed like 50 buildings. I bought in the second building there.
So is this what they call a master plan community at that time?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Got
this
it.
is a massive community where they have both condos, they have residential, they have commercial,
Commercial.
they've created parkland, they
Right.
created community centers. I mean, I won't go into. So I have at this point. It's been like 20 years that I've been in the
Don't age
business.
yourself. Don't age yourself.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, yeah. Do
fair
the
enough.
math, right?
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I have, like, I've been around long enough. I bought enough properties that I have my developers that I like to work with now,
Right.
and the ones that I'll stay away from.
And we'll get into that. I want to take it back. How did you fundraise to be able to purchase? Obviously, the prices were different back then, but how did you gather your channel? I don't mean to be in your pockets, but how did you gather your money to, then purchase your first property?
I mean, look,
What were you doing beforehand?
at the time I was serving. I was a
Got it.
server. I was a
Okay.
bartender and server.
Saving the tips?
Literally, tips were crazy
Mm.
back then. I mean, I think people are making more now in that industry, to be honest with you, because everywhere I go, it's like 18 to 25. Like, what's going on? It used to
Minimum.
be 15%. I'm like,
Yeah.
that was the standard, right? And that's changed recently. But yeah, man, I worked my ass off.
Mhm.
I was in school. I was at York University at the time, and we decided to buy in the summer. And literally for 3 months straight, I worked every single day,
Just grind.
just grinding it out. Literally from day to, like, start at 10 a.m., go to like 12 o'clock, and I close the place down.
I've worked in the food industry for a long time. The stigma is servers don't get approved, for mortgages. How do you take your tips and transition that into, do you claim all your tips? Some people don't claim all the tips. Like, how does that work for a server making tips, majority of their money, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? If you, I would claim partially. I think the mandate at the time was like 10%.
Yeah.
So with that, with my hours, I was able to afford a mortgage at the time. I
Yeah.
mean, I was with a B lender,
Sure.
granted. I think it was McMerrick's Financial or
Got it.
something like that. But
So you can get approved even if you are a server and majority of your money comes from tips.
I know so many servers that
Okay.
have like 4 or 5 properties.
Got it.
Like, they just make cash money,
Yeah.
and then they go put their money to work. And I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah. So you had, the foresight and the vision to own property. Were you looking at it as an investment, or this is my first property, I'm going to live in it for a while and see what happens in a couple years?
All investment.
Got
I
it.
actually didn't know what the hell I was doing, to be honest with you. I was like clueless to the max. And the reason I actually didn't get into real estate as a career
Mhm.
until about 10, 12 years later.
Oh, really?
And the reason I got into real estate as a career was because there's a few things. One, I liked it. I had a just a natural knack for it, I
Yeah.
feel like, just sales in general. And I wanted to help people where I didn't have the help that I once needed, because I didn't know what the hell's going on.
Right.
And we made some really bad mistakes. And the thing is that I want to help people not make those mistakes.
Right.
And that's why I got into real estate.
Talking about mistakes, you getting licensed, and what year was this? This is 10 years after. So 2013, 2015, around that time, maybe, let's call it that.
It was actually more like 2017 I got
Okay,
licensed, because
got
I
it.
was in Halifax, Nova Scotia, working for a developer out there.
Okay, got it. So you get licensed. Do you know what team you're joining? Why you're joining a team? Do you do solo for a bit? Like, what was your direction?
Yeah, I think there's a backstory here where I used to work for developers.
Okay.
Right. So we sell condominium projects, large scale mixed use projects throughout the GTA. While I was with them, we sold about maybe 3,000 units.
Okay.
Like, there was this one project where literally for 2 months straight, I worked from 10 a.m. to 2 o'clock in the morning for like 60 days in a row.
Why?
which was crazy.
So you're a maniac. You just work.
I mean, I there's something about it. Like I really like the rush, and the
Yeah,
amount I learned in that time was crazy. But also because I'm diabetic, I'm type 1 diabetic, as you
okay,
know,
yeah,
um, I couldn't sustain that for
for
a
sure,
long period of
for
time.
sure.
So I know I needed breaks, so I had to leave the developers. Right now, at that point, I had met maybe about 10,000 realtors in the
Okay,
GTA. So after I started, I went away for a bit. I visited a friend of mine in San Francisco for 3 months. Came back and started interviewing different brokerages. Eventually, I went to a small boutique brokerage because I
yeah,
had a really good relationship with Nurses Stridarian. Shout out to Big City Realty. Great guy, great team. They're in Markham. Absolutely love them.
mhm,
And then maybe about a year later, that's when I decided to join REC. Um, and there's a backstory there too because Simos, Jazz, and we actually had one weekend. This is back in 2017
right,
when I was with the developers. We had one weekend where we sold 25 units in
crazy,
Niagara,
right,
and that was an awesome experience. Working with these guys was phenomenal. They're
yeah,
such good, like fun-loving guys,
right,
and they're all about business. And that was such a good experience that when I saw Simoso again, just in the sales office, there's Mobilio sales office by Menke's actually, and we had a
mm,
conversation, and then we had a meeting, and then I decided to join from that point on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
Greatest decision, one of,
One of the best decisions, absolutely, yeah,
yeah,
because he's been more of a both a friend and mentor over the
for
years, and
sure,
it's been great working with him. And Jazz, obviously, Jazz is amazing at what he does,
yeah.
and it's just positivity upon positivity.
Love it. So now you're with the team, you're doing your deals, 25 deals in a weekend. Sounds amazing.
Yeah,
You break it down,
absolutely.
that's more than people make all year, right? This is going good for you. The market changes in 2020, 2022. Now we're shifting to lease deals or whatever deals. We're trying to stay afloat, right? So while you're doing that, you're learning, a lot of the condos that people had purchased back in 2018 coming up to closing, they can't necessarily close on these condos for whatever reason. It might be the interest rates, it might be cash flow, it might be whatever, numerous amount of reasons, right? There's this new thing that's happening. I don't know if it's new, but I'm learning about it myself. Assignments. Everybody's talking about assignments, flipping the paper. What does that mean to somebody that's looking to get into the condo or somebody that can't afford to close on something they previously purchased?
So there's two parts to that question. I feel like you're either the seller
Yeah.
or the purchaser. Now, what's happened is that over the years, I think we've been on a huge run in Toronto or in Canada in general, where we haven't had a real recession. And someone fact check me here because I could be wrong
We're not
here.
here to play politics.
It's cool.
Everyone's gonna have
I
their
mean,
their
we can go
opinion.
into the politics thing. So
Yeah,
I have opinions there
yeah,
too. But regardless of that, I mean, I think from what I recall, so 2008, 2009 was a big one for us,
yeah,
right? In us in the States, and I think the world in general. Then we had a slowdown in 2012, 2013, and then again in 2018 there was a slowdown in the market, and ever since, but there was no real crazy, like the cycle of 7-year recession
hmm,
wasn't there. And again,
okay,
this is fact check me if I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong, in
yeah,
fact. But what's happening right now is we're at a point where we haven't felt the pain of a real recession for a
hmm,
while, and now because we've kind of, whatever the government's done to induce this, meaning just continue the market kind of rolling with low interest rates,
yeah,
we're feeling it now. It's actually going to be a prolonged period until we get interest rates back down to where they were. And one thing I want to keep in mind is that I was looking at like some of my mortgage rates back in like 2008, 2009,
yeah,
and they were at 3%.
right.
They weren't like crazy low like we
They weren't the
saw.
1%. I think my mom has
Yeah,
has a 2%, 1%, something crazy, right?
absolutely.
They don't exist anymore.
They don't. And like, but the thing, what I'm trying to get at is that back then, people were still paying the 3-4%,
Right.
and we're kind of almost there now.
What are we at right now? 4.25,
So
I believe it was.
I believe, depending on where you're going, you can get anywhere between 4.5 to
Mhm,
about 6%. If
got
you
it.
have to go private lender, like a lot of people who can't close
Right.
traditionally are going private. That's close to like 8 to 10%.
Yeah.
So just going back to your original question about assignments in general. So an assignment is someone buys a property. Like there's a lot of different types of assignments, but I
Hmm.
think the one that we're discussing here is condo assignment.
Right.
Someone who bought a property from a developer, and they want to take that the bundle of rights,
That's
right?
what it's
Because
called.
that's what it is. It's a
Got it.
bundle of rights. So anytime you buy a property, you're buying a bundle of rights.
Got it.
So you're buying that. Sorry, the seller wants to sell it because of whatever reason they can't close. Now, I've been a part of assignments now for about 6, 7 years,
Yeah.
where I've been buying, selling, helping people buy, helping people sell. Prior to 2023, you could actually sell an assignment for a profit. Like back between 2018 to 2022, I would say, midway through 2022, I think, people were selling their assignments for a profit, sometimes big profits, because if you bought in 2014, 2015, you're buying it like $500, $600, maybe $700 a square foot.
Right.
And 2018, you're selling it for $700, $800, $900 a
Right.
square foot.
Which I guess is when they coined flipping the paper.
Right.
It sounded better at that time, right?
Yeah,
Got it.
And I mean, the government's clued into this, and people made a ton of money doing
Sure.
that time, like a lot of money. So the government clued in, and they enacted some things where you have to pay a certain amount, HST afterwards,
All
and
the
so on,
taxes.
all the tax stuff. Like they've clued in. They're like, oh shit, everyone's making money, but we're not making any money.
Yeah, we need to make some money too.
We need to make some money, right?
Yeah,
So
naturally.
they,
You know how that goes.
You could make a profit. Now, what we're seeing in the market right now
Yeah.
simply is that everyone that's selling an assignment, anyone that comes to me and says, I want to sell an assignment, I'm like, don't.
Yeah, keep it.
Keep it. Because you're not going to
Figure out a way to keep it.
100%. Because where we are right now, I mean, people, the thing about people is that people have short-term memory.
Yeah.
That's all they have. Like the long-term memory doesn't, like I remember how 2008, 2009 was.
Yeah.
That was a bad, like developers were, I wouldn't say giving away property, but there were people that were walking away from like $100,000 with a developer. And now that's happening again, where people are like, well, if I can't sell it, I can't close on it.
Mhm.
And I don't want the stress of it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to lose all my deposits.
Right. And you
Now,
don't want that.
You don't. I mean, the truth of the matter is if you default on a developer, good luck.
Yeah.
Because they have the right to sue you for so much money.
And it takes forever. And most people can't carry the cost of legal fees and all the things that come with it, right? So
that's right.
Yeah.
And they're getting you on their own legal fees, which
Right.
is gonna. So I would
sometimes it's better just to walk away.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about that is that what I mean when you say walk away, you can't walk. If you walk away from a contract, there is the chance that they'll come after you.
Right.
Right. Even with all the deposits that you give, there's a chance that they might still come after you. And I know a lot of the bigger developers would.
Yeah.
Like they don't care. It's a contract. It's a contract.
It's business.
That's it. But what people are doing right now, they have maybe $150,000, $200,000 in a property.
Yeah.
They're like selling it for, in some cases, for more than what they put into it. Meaning, if I put $200,000 into it, I might give someone $200,000. Some people are giving other people $250,000 to take over the contract.
Right. How does that work?
So I mean, it's just how desperate are you?
Yeah, break that down for the worst case scenario. Because that sounds like the worst case scenario when you have to pay more money just to get out of a contract.
I mean, the worst case scenario that I've seen right now is someone actually closed and then lost another $200,000 off selling it because they wouldn't. I mean, this is a client of mine personally, but I mean, I just wish people listened more.
There you go. Talk about it.
I just wish people listened more because
these are the pain points of being, in the profession. So I want to talk about those as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it's just like I've been in the market long enough to know that, for me at least, the way I see the market, this is a blip. This is something that's gonna be around for maybe a year or two. But if you can weather the storm, like literally, Tony Tabar.
Yeah.
He said something, and I think he got this from someone else, that really resonated with me. Is that there's a transfer of wealth happening right now, where people are dumping their properties, and people who have the money, who have the foresight, who have the ability to close on properties, are getting crazy deals in the market.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that happening right now, and so everyone's scenario was different. Like this person in general, they had a high interest rate. They were paying a lot of money every month to carry the property.
Right.
If they had listened to me 8 months ago, we could have gone another year without having to sell it for such a loss.
Yeah.
And we sold it for like $150,000 less than what she probably could have got for it
Mhm.
if she held on to it for another year or two.
The buyer got a deal.
The buyer got a great deal, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that person, like, yeah, that person
So again,
in the money.
this is not to paint horror stories about assignments. This is about, showing both sides of the coin, right? So yeah, somebody might, unfortunately take a loss, but there are deals out there where you can get a property for up to $150,000 less than it was purchased for recently, right? So,
Yeah.
reach out to Cheyenne and, figure out if you want to, find a deal right now. There's a lot of, 2 bedrooms that are going around that are at a discount essentially, no?
100%.
Right.
Everything that
And how do you find those? Because you generally don't find assignments on, the MLSs or, Kijiji or Marketplace. Like, where do you find assignments if you're looking for a deal?
So that's a good question. So maybe about 1% of all assignments in Toronto can go on the MLS if
Okay.
you have the developer's blessing.
Got it.
Sometimes they give it, most of the time they don't.
Can you get that in a contract, like upfront?
You can. Typically, an assignment clause will have all, like, you can't market it explicitly. You can't put on MLS.
Yeah.
Most assignment clauses will have that.
Yeah.
And another thing to keep in mind is that when you buy an assignment, like, there's a lot of things to keep. You wanna have in your contract so that you're protected against a lot of different things. It's a complex transaction, and finding someone like who's been through it before, both on the realtor end as well as the lawyer end, is so key.
Finding a team.
Yeah,
The right
I mean
team.
that's what you need, right?
Yeah.
But there are a ton of deals right now, and the thing is that I'm like we talked about earlier about the developers I like and don't like, for instance. I think that's a big deal nowadays. I think what's happening is that there's a lot of developers out there who are, I mean, and I don't want to scare people, but I'm very picky with who I work with because I want the best product I can get.
As you should, yeah.
And I want to hold on to the property and never sell it. Like, I've sold property in the past and I'm like, oh, that hurts.
Should have kept it for
That
5 more
hurts.
years.
100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, my situation, everyone goes through life and we've been through my things. Like,
Sure.
I sold a property once to get into another investment and so on and so forth. So we all have our reasons, but if I could go back, I would hold on to everything I had.
But you're making money and you're transferring it into another wealth building system, right? So you're getting the tax benefits on those. And there's so many other benefits that you get from, home ownership. I want to go back to assignments. So, purchasing a pre-construction condo, I know REC Canada, they do a great job of having a clause in there. I always see a clause in these contracts, free to assign. What does that mean exactly?
So sometimes developers, if you don't ask for it explicitly in the contract, a developer can charge you between $20,000 to $30,000 for an assignment. Meaning,
What?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen this.
So what do you mean? What do you mean by this? So you pay your deposits. Say you put down $150,000.
Right.
It's 2 years, 3 years. It's about to be built or it's about to take occupancy.
Yeah.
You want to assign it. They'll charge you a fee.
Absolutely.
Yuck.
Yeah. If you don't have everything,
That essentially eats into your potential profit, no?
oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Jeez.
I mean, and look, that's where having a lawyer and a realtor, again, going back to that, like the two big things that I find REC does really, really well is one, though, like what you just mentioned about assignments being free. And it's not necessarily completely free, by the way,
Sure.
okay? Because even in that assignment clause, you're still paying for their lawyer fees, which is anywhere between $750 to $1,500 typically.
Better than $30,000.
100%.
I'll take it.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. If you don't have everything, and a lot of people have gone directly to the developer, and the developer doesn't care.
Right.
Developer is going to make their deal most advantageous to them.
Yeah, money's money.
It's a business.
Yeah.
I don't blame them either. At the end of the day, buyers always have to beware.
Yeah.
You have to do your due diligence and know what you're getting into. And honestly, what I've noticed about people, they don't actually know what they're getting into half the time.
They speak like they do.
They do, but like, I mean, look, I've been in the last probably year and a half, I've spoken to so many people about assignments, and like, and I hate to say this about some of the other realtors out there, but again, you have to beware, is that like realtors, sometimes some people will say that you're going to make money on this no matter what.
Right.
And
which you shouldn't guarantee.
You never in my life would I, if someone said something's guaranteed, I run the other way.
Yeah.
Like as fast as I can.
Unless it's money back guarantee.
100%. And even that, it's like, yeah, that's great. But like, No, these like some people just say whatever they need to say to
Get
get
the
this
sale.
the deal.
Yeah.
And I know people that have bought 2 or 3 properties and like Cheyenne, I need to sell all of them.
Yeah.
I can't
It's
actually
rough.
close on any of them because I thought I was gonna flip it and this and that
Yeah.
later on. Because that's what the realtor told me. That's what the person told me that I was dealing with. And that stuff bothers me, man.
Yeah.
And going back to like why I got into the business, that really bugs me. But like the way I look at assignments, and I've done really well with the ones I bought. The way I look at it is that I want to find a developer that I can actually depend on,
Yeah.
one that I think is going to create a good product. And the way I do that
That was
personally,
my question.
is I'll go and look at their older buildings,
Mm.
go and look at what they built either
On the
years ago.
website.
I actually go visit them.
Oh, really?
I'll go book showings for myself just to check it out.
Yeah.
And if I'm buying for a client of mine, I'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we're getting into a good investment where, again, real estate is not like, it's not hard to make money in real
Mhm.
estate. It really isn't. It's just about, I think the big thing that we've all kind of lost sight of is that the market's not always going up at the same rate all the time.
Right.
It's like it's going up and down and up and down.
Certain
and-
markets are going up more than others, right?
Absolutely.
Right,
And
right.
like you have to be aware of what you're getting into. You might have a little bit of short-term pain,
Mhm.
but the long term is what you're looking at. The long term, even by just paying down the mortgage over 10-year period,
Mhm.
like when you do the math on that, it's quite a bit of money that a tenant is paying for your property.
1000%.
And that's how
I've been on the tenant side for sure, paying $30,000 a year for somebody else's property. I've done it before. I know how it is, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have, and it's like when you put things in perspective like that and don't go stir crazy and try to go
Yeah.
buy everything and be like, I'm gonna make so much money.
yeah.
No, man, just take it slow. Real estate's a slow thing. Like,
What would happen to the days when, or is it even a future guess that can we actually get into a property being or making under less than $100,000? Is that a thing nowadays? Now you got to get
So-
married and pool the income together.
that helps. Yeah, go find someone who
now
makes
it's
money.
now that's a strategy to buy property now.
Hey. Some people look at it that way, but I think so. This is more of a question for a mortgage broker, but typically the way we look at it is that if you're making 100K,
Yeah.
you can borrow 400.
Sure.
It's like 4 or 5 times depending on where interest rates are.
Okay.
So right now we're close to 4 times. So 400K you can borrow, right?
Right.
Um,
You're not going to find that in Toronto.
it's gonna be hard.
Yes.
Yeah, and the properties you're gonna find are not necessarily ones you want.
Right.
Like, look, the best, in my opinion, condos are not the best investments.
Mhm.
In fact, in real estate, I like them, and I've always liked them because I'm more of I want to have things grow in time, and I don't want to necessarily do any work towards the actual property itself. I wanna let it sit there and grow on its own. But the best way to make money, and the only way you can do this if you have money,
Mhm.
is to take a property that's undervalued, that's underutilized,
Fix it up a little bit.
and improve on it.
Right.
So that can be in many different ways, but that is like the best way to make money in real estate.
Yeah.
The second best is just to wait.
I like the first option, which is find something that you can afford and fix it up, add value, right? What markets would you recommend, a new investor take a peek at if they can get approved for up to $500,000?
It depends on how much money they have in the background, right? So
Call it
you-
100K from a gift from parents, and you get approved for up to 400.
Yeah, so I mean, you want to look for maybe a duplex or something like that in
Yeah.
the outskirts.
Got it.
Or again, I like to be within an hour of any property that I have. I
Okay.
want to live within an hour because I like to manage my.
What's an
properties
hour from
myself.
here?
So I mean, I guess you could go to. I mean, Niagara's probably an hour and a half. I guess.
Yeah.
Something
I
like
hear
that.
a lot of good things about Niagara right now. Have you heard anything about the development that's happening in Niagara?
There's
Would you
a-
recommend looking there? Obviously, you recommend looking everywhere, but still.
There's a lot happening in Niagara.
Right.
And I think Niagara's, I mean, it's a weird market because you have a lot of tourism there, right? But you can still find product there for
Yeah.
like 600K and less that's
Right.
cash flowing in the interest rate environment we're in right now.
So why don't people like looking at Niagara? Is there a stigma against it? I know there's a bit of stigma against Hamilton and certain areas for whatever reason. I'm not going to get into that, but if the numbers make sense, why would you not, right?
I think there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Mm,
I think a lot of people want, well, another thing is that Niagara doesn't traditionally have the same growth that Toronto does.
okay.
So when you look at the last 20, 30 years in Toronto, you're going to see on average about 7 to 8% per year over that time.
Right.
Niagara, I don't believe has been as quickly to appreciate.
Okay.
That's why Toronto has been one of those markets where it's like, oh, I'm safe in Toronto. Plus, there's always tenants in Toronto.
Hmm.
Plus, you have more high quality tenants
True
in
enough.
Toronto. In Niagara, I mean, you don't have the same type of tenant pool.
Okay.
Like COVID was different, right? When COVID hit, everyone sold Toronto,
Mm,
and I remember that time because I'm like, Toronto's on sale, guys.
yeah.
It's on sale. Everyone sold Toronto. Everyone moved to the outskirts. Like I
Right.
saw what Windsor, Ontario, not Windsor. There was I forget the other place, but you're looking at like 30-40% growth in a year or two during COVID, which was
Yeah.
crazy.
It won't happen again, but it happened.
I mean, who knows? The next pandemic,
Right.
who
True. True
knows?
enough.
We're going to the moon.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
values on the moon is
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
crazy. Who knows? But I mean, I, but what happened right when COVID ended,
Mm,
pretty much, because we're kind of out of COVID now in that
sure.
sense, for sure. It's been a while now. Right when it ended, you saw those markets like slowly going down. And I
Yeah.
think Brampton was another big one where they saw crazy gains, and then all of a sudden it crashed. And
Mm,
so, in my opinion, when I look at those areas, they're not as insulated as Toronto is.
okay.
And some of the things I mentioned kind of contribute to that.
I don't really do too much politics, but now we're hearing that the government wants to spread out the immigration throughout Canada, right? Put more people into other areas, make it a little more dense, start some more development potentially. You know, do you see any other provinces that you might, you see the Calgarys. I don't know if you hear about Calgary all the time. British Columbia is just like Toronto; it's expensive. Montreal, same thing. Um, any other provinces you can see in the next 10 years that would potentially be like Toronto that you can kind of get into now? Or if you had an extra 200K to throw somewhere,
Yeah, I wouldn't.
crystal ball stuff,
I wouldn't. I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that. I personally would not go where I don't know.
Yeah,
I like to invest in where I know. And personally, based on what the government's saying about spreading people out, they've always been doing that, by the way. When I
sure.
first came to the country back in '86, they put us in Essex, New Brunswick.
Where the hell is that?
Exactly. Exactly. I remember, like, I was like 4 years old at the
Yeah.
time, and I have a picture of me like here, and then the snowbank being
No
like literally
way.
to the
Yeah,
ceiling.
yeah.
You know, it
Nobody
was
wants to
like
live there.
no one, man. I mean, look, my parents are very proud people. We came here as refugees. We were on welfare for the
Yeah,
first year because we
sure.
couldn't find jobs.
Yeah.
Like, and that didn't stick well with my family
Yeah.
at all. And once the 1 year is up, because that's all they do is they force you to be there for 1 year.
Yeah.
Once that 1 year is up,
You're free to go wherever.
yeah,
Got it.
went to Toronto.
Yeah.
Because this is where all the jobs are. Like when you look at the like where the concentration of the most jobs are, and
It's in
again,
Toronto.
it's Ontario as a whole,
Yeah.
right? Like we are the economic powerhouse of Canada. Like when people talk about Canada, they don't. I mean, there's two names. There's like Toronto
Mhm.
and BC or
Right.
Vancouver.
Vancouver.
That
Specifically
like
Vancouver.
people in the States and all over the world kind of know
Mhm.
about Canada. Some people know about Montreal.
Right.
Montreal used to be crazy.
Why don't they
before.
know about Ottawa?
No one cares about Ottawa.
Ottawa? No, nothing?
No,
All right, cool.
I don't care about
No
Ottawa.
love for Ottawa.
No love for Ottawa,
Got it.
man. I mean, look, I have every time I find that the government. I don't know. I have my things about politics,
I
and
know.
it's like
We all do, and it's
It's just like guys.
another time. Another time.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of me is like, let's go.
I know,
like,
I know.
But maybe it's not a good idea. But yeah, so I have my, and Ottawa is not a place that I personally want to go to.
Yeah.
Like I've been there once, and it's all right. Some nice
Mhm.
restaurants, museums, things like that. But nothing happening, man. Toronto's the lifeblood. I feel like.
Yeah, Toronto is the mecca right now. Right, we
That's-
gotta love it.
yeah.
So let's take it back to assignments and building a team now. So actually, just step away from assignments. I want to talk about leasing right now.
Sure.
You're head of the REC Canada's leasing division. You have a few agents working with you
Yeah.
throughout the GTA,
Yeah.
myself included. I'm out in Durham, Ajax, Pickering, Whitby. If you need any help, let me know. How do you source your leads, for a realtor purpose, and then after that, which ones do you actually take out to a showing and invest your time in?
You know,
Because it's tough. It's a tough game.
leasing is actually one of the toughest
Yeah.
games, and that's where I would say every realtor should start. Now, granted, I've been in this now for about, let's say, close to 10 years. I'm still doing leasing. I think it should be a part of anyone's
Yeah.
any realtor's kind of business model. Personally, the reason I like doing it simply is because if I have an investor client, I want to not control is not the right word. I want to be involved with every aspect of their real estate needs,
Got it.
whatever that is. Could be leasing, could be selling, could be buying, whatever. I want to be there because I want to do it right.
Mhm.
Like for me, so right now, the reason I've been able to do so many is because I have a lot of listings.
Yeah.
We have buildings
What
coming
you guys
up.
do, like 90 plus in the last 6 months? That's unheard of,
Yeah, a lot.
right?
We've done a lot. So I don't give my time to everyone, and rarely do I go to do showings now.
Mm.
I'm very picky choosy,
Right.
but I don't personally recommend that realtors be that way, especially if they're starting out. What I would recommend is by asking the right questions.
Which
And
are?
I mean, you want
Give
to
me
get to
top
know
top three
people.
questions when when somebody reach out to or sees a listing of yours on MLS. You know, Cheyenne, I'm looking to lease this 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom condo in Whitby. Um, how do I book a showing? What questions do you ask? Is it just yes, or is it a couple of questions before you give the yes?
That's a good question. It depends on where the lead's coming from.
Right.
Okay. So most online leads I feel are flaky.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where they come from.
Marketplace is horrible.
But it's one of the hardest places to actually
Right.
get a genuine connection with
Whether you're
people.
selling a house or a mug, it's just the worst experience sometimes.
It can be,
Yeah.
right? It's the way you handle yourself
Mhm.
and handle the conversation. What I find to be helpful, and when I was even in the beginning of the year, I was doing majority of the work myself. We didn't really establish the team at that point. We added people once I had like 20 listings at one time, right? So what I would typically do is I would have questions about who they are. Just have a conversation with people.
Right.
It doesn't need to be all professional, and you don't have to be like, some people have scripts and scripts are good.
Mhm.
But what I would like to do is just really try to get on the phone with them and get an idea of who they are as people.
Yeah.
Because that to me is the most important thing.
Mm.
Right? When I'm working with someone, I want to have their loyalty, I want to have and their trust.
Yeah.
And I want to be friendly with them. And here's another thing. I've had good people that I've helped and worked with that have done deals with
Yeah.
other people behind my back.
It happens.
It does. It does
Yeah.
happen. And whenever that happens, I'm always like, no problem. That's fantastic. A
Yeah.
lot of people get mad and go, oh, I'm gonna,
Well, it hurts. You spend 30 days taking people out on 15 showings, and you might go on vacation for a weekend and come back, and Monday that deal's gone. It happens.
100%. 100%. But guess what? Emotions, not part of business.
1000%.
Now, what I've learned, and I've relearned this lesson over the years, but the last 8-9 months doing what I'm doing, I learned more about myself than anyone.
Mm.
And what I've also learned is like where I've gone wrong and how I've managed my own emotions, because we all have shit that comes up. We all have things that's like, it gets us mad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not great with paperwork. And people love like pointing out where I've gone, oh, you made a mistake on the E here.
Yes,
It's like,
like, all right, man.
but in the past I'd get like all mad and stuff.
And that's an easy fix. Get an admin. That's
It
whatever.
literally is, right? I'm like, I just signed the paperwork,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
In the past, I'd be like that. Now I'm just like, yeah, no problem. That's great. Thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. Exactly. So like having, you learning about yourself and being able to see all those places where it's not good for business
Mhm.
is like
Okay.
by far the most important thing, I think,
I love that.
that I've been able to really build on over the last 8 months.
So then how do you deal with, okay, painting a scenario, real life scenario, took a client out for, again, 60 days worth of showings, every week, trying to find a property,
Mhm.
Getting the paperwork, your rental documents, your driver's license, job letter, and all the things you need, credit report. Do you pull the credit reports? Do realtors pull it? Because at the end, right at the final hour, the the credit report was pulled and the credit score wasn't what was on the Equifax. Kill the deal. These things happen more than often, and how do we protect ourselves as realtors at in the beginning? Because do we just run the other credit, or how do you manage something like that?
Depends on the scenario.
Right.
Depends on the person. I, on the listing side, because I'm representing the landlords,
Yeah.
I always pull everyone's credit.
Sure.
Um, I want to see where I want to. That's actually the easiest way for me to tell if
judge
someone's
someone.
telling the truth or not.
Right.
Right. And I've caught a lot of people.
It happens.
A lot of
Right.
people who get these things. It's so easy to fake documents nowadays.
It's Photoshop, baby.
It's so
Canva.
easy, literally.
Right.
And they pay for this.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, even there's people out there that have legitimate, like, I want to say legitimate jobs. Like, it depends how you define that. But jobs where they make really good money,
Right.
they just don't want to be forthcoming about what they do.
Sure enough.
And I won't go into details, but there's been some people who are like making 10, 12K a month, and they're like,
right.
But they're like, oh, I work at WestJet. I'm like, no,
Sure.
you don't. Let's be honest. You do not
WestJet
work
doesn't
at
pay you
WestJet.
10K a month,
for
baby.
marketing manager. Get the heck out of here.
Right.
So it really
But it's not your
depends.
place to judge. So then how do you kind of move past that and then get to the next step? Even though you kind of have your spider senses on that this may not be right.
Conversation, man.
Yeah.
This actually happened to me where
Right.
someone gave me an application. I found out, obviously, I'm like,
Yeah, you do your research.
do my research. I'm like, I already knew, but I had a conversation, very open-ended conversation with the realtor first that represented them. I'm like, hey, did you do your due diligence? Blah, blah, blah. And then I had a conversation with the person. And in that conversation, I'm like, look, I know you don't do this. I
Yeah.
know they're not going to pay. Just tell me what you do.
Yeah.
Just be honest. Because if you're honest, that gives you a shot at getting something. It
Right.
might mean that you have to go to like 5, 6 different places.
Sure.
But man, not starting, I think it's so easy to lie. And I think that's a really bad way of starting a relationship with anyone.
Right.
And the landlord tenant is a very important thing. So,
But how do you not know you're gonna get caught? Especially if you're looking to get into a new building. They're gonna run your credit, guys. Stop doing that.
stop being there. So the truth is they get away with it sometimes.
Okay.
There's people out there that are not as big on due diligence as maybe you and I are.
Right.
Right. So they do get away with it,
Okay.
but also they don't have to do that. There's other ways of going about things. I
Have
think
the conversation.
that's it.
Just be honest sometimes.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah, and don't take it personally. Like for me, I start every conversation with like, look, I don't take things personally. I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just trying to do my job.
Yeah.
And literally every Zoom call and what I do for my landlords, for instance, I'll have I interview everyone that comes through the door, and I will have a Zoom call with them, and I'll paint things out. I'm like, look, I am not trying to be judgmental,
Yeah.
but I have to ask you tough questions. You don't have to answer it, but I have to ask.
I have
them.
to ask.
I have to ask. So like, yeah, for people out there who are looking to be tenants and find the next spot, like just tell the truth and find someone that's going to help you along in the process and figure out what we need to do to get the deal done.
Yeah.
Like that's the best advice I can give you.
Because sometimes they're great people. Just on paper, sometimes life happens. You missed a couple payments. The credit score dropped. Life happens, guys. We're
Sure.
all human, right? If you're honest about it, then we can work together.
100%.
But if you're gonna spin the wheel and lie and deceive, then now your character is speaking, right?
No one wants to work with you.
Right.
I don't want to work with someone that's lying to me.
1000%.
I don't care who you are. Like
Yeah.
you can be a rainmaker. I'm like, if you lie to me, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to have you
kill the
around.
relationship at that
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
Right.
No, tell me the truth. Like I'm honest to a fault right now.
Yeah.
In just everything I do.
Brutally sometimes, but
yeah, brutally.
sometimes you have
but
to
even
be.
with myself,
Yeah.
where it's like I want to be in reality. Reality is here.
Mhm.
If I lie to myself, then I'm gonna go to an imaginary world
Delusional.
where it's all illusion.
1000%.
It's all illusion. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, let's just and this is why I love immigrants, bro.
Mhm.
This is why when there's certain types of people that are coming from other countries
Yeah.
that they just have morals. And
Yeah.
it's weird to say this, but they have morals.
Yeah.
And they're good people.
Yeah.
And they might not have the best credit.
God-fearing type.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what I want.
My first 3 deals were immigrants from wherever, but they were looking for a place and they came with their documents and they were so honest because again, they're coming here and they see the opportunity. right? And they're looking for housing. They just want to they want to start off on a good foot, right? Let's not start off lying and deceiving, and let's not do all that stuff, guys. All right, let's do it the right way.
That's it. That's it.
My guy Shy, honestly, it was a great conversation, brother. Like, I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming back.
Yeah, man.
I want to talk to you about, what you guys have coming up next. I know you guys are pushing a few condos in Toronto, or is it Pickering?
So I think Jazz and them,
Yeah.
because Jazz has his team, right?
Got it.
Jazz has his team for different aspects of his business,
Right.
and I think he's brilliant at what he does. They're doing a deal in Pickering right now, 1515 something.
Okay, got it.
I believe. I forget who the builder is there. I'm not really working on that stuff.
Okay.
What I'm doing is obviously the leasing side of things. And it has been sprinkled both purchasers and sellers along this whole process of leasing. But what I would like to build out and what I'm working on building out with both the team as well as on my own, one is to create a process for our leasing guys to have more opportunities. I want the people that have put the time and effort into what we've been doing. I want them to do well. Yeah. And it's a lot of training and it's a lot of frustration. It's a lot of anytime you're dealing with other people, it's hard. Yeah.
You're managing personalities.
100%. But right. I want them to do well because they're putting the work in, and I want to help people that are putting the work in. So I want to bring them more opportunities, both on the leasing and selling end of things. So there's processes that we're working on to get those things going. Like Bobby's been a great Bobby. Obviously, you know Bobby.
Shout out to Bobby.
Yeah. I love you, Bobby. He's been a great resource for me. He's been really helpful throughout this whole process. And then on the other end of things, I think workshops on just teaching people what real estate actually is.
Yeah, just leading through education.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Question for you on leasing. Do you get buyers out of leasing? Like, does it come?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you follow up? Like, what's the process of follow? You put somebody in a condo or an apartment on October 1st. How often do you keep in touch with these guys?
It depends on the relationship. It depends on who they are and what they do. But I mean, the easiest thing to do is have them on your distribution list. Yeah. So going back to what we talked about, other people doing deals with, like, you're working with someone for 3 months and then they go do a deal with somebody else and you're like, oh, I didn't make any money. Great. In fact, deal with, like, what I would say to people, look internally to see what about that pissed you off? Because it does piss all of us off. You get to a certain point where it's like, amazing. And you actually say that out loud to them. It's amazing. Great. I'm happy you found the place. You love it. Perfect. Yeah. Whatever.
Are you happy?
Are you happy? Whatever you need. If you need me to look at the documents, I can. Sure. If you want me to help in any way, I can. Also, do you mind if I keep in touch through email? Sure. And then it's the follow-up calls. Like 2-3 months later, how are you doing? Yeah. And the emails, again, it's just if you're
at some point they might be ready to do something.
100%. No, people are, man. They will be. They look. Depending on the relationship you have from the beginning, you get a sense of where they are financially, right? And you're just gonna see their paperwork. You're gonna see how much they make, and eventually, everyone's gonna want to buy. Yeah. No one likes to move around.
Everybody's just sitting on their hands right now, trying to wait for that moment. I guess
there's a lot of people waiting. I encourage people to buy when they can afford. Right. And in fact, if we're going into a principal,
and where you can afford.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If we're going into a principal residence, find something where you can pay it off quick. Yeah. Find something where you can have a second unit, a basement, or even the main level.
And that was my question. As a first-time home buyer, I'm looking to do my purchase soon. Would you recommend the family home right now, or I'm a young guy, so I got time, or God bless, to either do a family primary principal residence or an income property to potentially refinance and do some things in the next 3 to 5 years, right? If you can go back, which one would you do? I think based off of your history, you went the income route, no?
I did when I was younger. Yeah. It really depends on the goals of the individual. So for me, I know that like for you, for instance, I'd probably say go income route. Yeah. Because I feel like you're excited about that. I am. Just you talking about it, I could see that there's a difference between my own personal residence.
Give a shit.
Yeah, because you're not married.
No.
So you can live anywhere.
Try to see if I can do this without getting anyway.
Yeah. Fair enough. Going back to what you said earlier. Yeah. I love it. I mean, hey man, that's one way.
I know. Yeah.
But No, if you're not married, man, and if you're like, look, we can live anywhere. I
Yeah.
can live in a shoebox.
Right.
I can live in my car. I've
That
lived in
seems.
my car
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for guys like us, then yeah, I would say go buy an income property and
Yeah.
just actually pay it off.
Right.
Because once you have a paid off property, the bank looks at you, walk different. The
Talk
bank
different.
looks at you differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
talk to people differently.
Yeah.
And it's funny when I was younger, when I was doing, I feel like I did things for the wrong reasons. And like I would tell everyone and their mother, hey, I have a few properties. I'm doing this,
Right.
I'm doing that. Just to get that like sense of self-worth. That's a problem.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, like for me, I've realized that over the years, it's like there's something wrong there, and I've had to fix. Again, going back to me, fix me in that regard. But yeah, man, for someone like you who can live anywhere,
Yeah.
like because you don't, like you moving is not like you're moving, like you're uprooting yourself and
No.
going somewhere else. No, it's just like whatever it
It's
is.
a transaction at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's just fuck it. If I were you, I'd go income route. I go find something.
Yeah.
I go have the ability to put 15 to 20% additional towards your mortgage. I just want to pay off a property.
Yeah.
That's
That's the name of the game.
I think so. I mean, look, I started with pre-construction. I still buy pre-construction. I
Yeah.
like pre-construction. But that doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
And
Fair
that's
enough.
okay.
Cheyenne, thank you for coming out, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
you sitting down with me. This is a great conversation, and we're gonna do this again. We're coming up to about an hour, brother. Appreciate you.
Wow.
Cheers.
Wow, it's gone by so quick.
All about assignments, leases, and top guy in the industry.
Appreciate
Cheyenne.
it, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, Steven.